Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is the Matthew Dark Show. It's so good to be with you. However, and wherever you join us, hit subscribe. Never miss an episode. So excited to have one of our favorite guests back on the show. It's been a long, long time. And let me set the stage as far as where we were at. Dr. Michael Gaeta, he joined us in the weeks prior. This is the weeks prior to the 2024 election. Of course, at that time, America was facing an incredible fork in the road. Trump wins, save America. Trump loses, we'll never survive 4 years of this. Now, we're 6.5, 7 months into the thing. Let me bring in my dear friend and welcome him, and let's kind of see how we're doing so far. Dr. Michael Gaeta, the Gaeta Institute, Boulder, Colorado. Floor is yours, sir. How you been? And gosh, what do you think so far halfway into this first year, Trump 2?
It's been remarkable. I was just, and first of all, thank you. I've got my gift from you, my friend, my
beautiful
tie.
I like you in that the
My
best.
gift,
Absolutely.
the Matthew Dark present. I love that.
Yes, thank you.
Goes with, yeah, it's just a good thing to have. And yeah, so yeah, basically the new administration again this is not a right-wing or Republican administration. This is a populist movement. In other words, people versus the globalist tyranny, which we had for 4 years. And so, I think of Trump as a third-party candidate who ran as a Republican and transformed the party to a populist movement, which was not entrenched Washington interests, but really serving the working class, serving the people. And it's been remarkable. I would give the administration, easily an A- or B+ for sure, for literally saving the world from communism. That deserves some pretty high praise, because the globalist tyranny that we suffered under for 4 years was really a very carefully considered effort to destroy the country. From the illegal immigration, the unchecked invasion, to destroying the economy, to shredding the Constitution in terms of First and Second Amendment rights. I mean, we were really facing, as you pointed out, very major, dire, catastrophic injury to the country. And I don't think, 4 more years of tens of millions of illegals flooding the voter rolls, I don't think we would have been able to pull out of that with just the endless corruption around elections and illegals voting and all kinds of things. There was just so much. So I'm delighted. I'm thrilled. It was definitely, I think, some type of divine intervention. Him surviving at least 2 assassination attempts. They really wanted to take him out. And so I'm just thrilled that, again, nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We could always point to things that we'd like differently and done faster, or, whatever. Certainly it's not perfect, but it's he literally saved the country and beyond from communism.
There is no doubt the flood of immigrants. We say 20 million in 4 years. I think that's very okay, fine. Between 10 and 20, that was unsustainable. We knew that was going to be catastrophic imminently. And I think it would have gotten worse by design. And so we had all these elements that there was the flood that needed to be plugged and stopped. And that was one. Okay. We also had to have sort of some kind of controls on this LGBTQ movement that had invaded the country. That was the other one. Backed them off. And I would say that is in the they've been booted from culture at the moment. They've tried to come back in. They're just not as bully type of a thing. It's just shocking what bullies the LGBTQ really turned out to be. And so you've got those two amazing things. Now, here's where I would say, as an American MAGA, because here's where I fear for Trump, because it doesn't feel like he's the same guy that came down the escalator in 2015 with the lovely Melania, right? So he's had maybe some battle scars, some wounds, some damage. And I think we're starting to see this, because I think we start with, when I go back to 2015, I think 2015, 2016, there was a couple of slogans, but one of them was drain the swamp. And so if
Yes,
you remember, that movement was like, yeah,
very
we
well.
can get into that. And if you recall, Trump had some fantastic moments on the campaign trails, on the
Indeed.
debate stage against Hillary. And she's like, and this is why we're so glad to not have Donald Trump with the codes to the nuclear weapon. And
Right.
it goes, yeah, you'd be in jail.
You'd be in jail. Yeah,
Right. That
absolutely.
was the famous line. And I think what happened to Trump is, okay, the naivete that first time around was abundant.
Yes.
And I think he was honestly and sincere. I think he was so grateful to have won, earned a victory, the come from behind, the underdog.
Unexpected.
I mean, totally. I mean, just
Yeah.
an achievement of the ages, no doubt.
Hmm.
He had a change of heart as far as how he was going to then go after these people.
Right.
I think he probably regrets it now, but I don't think it's in his character and nature to want to distract all these successes that were going on. I mean, he was
Hmm.
taking over, America's coming back, and so those swamp creatures
Yeah.
seized and they stayed in, and we had Russiagate, and then of course we had impeachment, then of course we
Sure.
had J6, and then the stolen, absolutely faker than the $3 bill 2020 election. We
Sure.
know that. I
100%.
mean, anybody still believing that is still getting
Yes.
a COVID shot. I mean, it's just a
Yep.
sad nature.
Their
And we
ninth
hope
boot.
to free them. Their ninth booster. They're up to, well, more than that by now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is those swamp creatures are still alive and active.
For sure.
And I'm concerned that we're getting a lot of great headline stuff from the Trump admin. I mean, you can go in so many places and say,
Yes.
this is a winner, this looking good, this is this. But those bad actors littered in the CIA, littered in the FBI, littered in the
Quite a
Department of
few.
Justice, they're still alive and well.
Mhm.
And my concern is this: we go back to the July 7th release, the Department of Justice release on the Epstein case,
Yes.
in which they say case closed.
Right.
He was
Nothing
not
to
a
see
part,
here.
nothing
Yeah.
to see here. And then, of course, Trump got very snappy that following week. Are
He
you
did.
still talking about Epstein, this guy? He was
This
very upset.
loser. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, he showed us something that we had not yet seen from Donald
That's
Trump
right.
in all these years. I want to
Yep.
pick it up right there. That's where I really became, uh-oh, what are we
Right.
getting into? Go ahead. What is your
Mhm.
thoughts on that initial reaction of his?
Yeah, it was disappointing to all of us, who were really, because he did promise it on the campaign trail. He has fulfilled so many promises. Like
Yes.
most of the last 7 months have been promises made, promises kept on so many issues. And he did, that was a campaign promise, like, more than once. Full disclosure, transparency, the American people need to know this wasn't cool. And so, that was shocking. And thankfully, the uprising from the people and people he trusts who were like, what the heck's going on?
Yes.
He did appear to at least partly relent and agree to release court documents, which would amount to a disclosure.
Right.
There is no, Epstein list, so to speak.
No, we're looking for
There
the
is,
files.
yeah, it's the files, it's the video,
Yeah.
right? Terabytes of video,
Testimony of witnesses, all of it. We need to see
testimony of
all of it.
witnesses. So my big problem with that, Matt, was one, that he said he was going to do it. He's a man of his word. He cares about the people. He knows how deep the rabbit hole gets and how corrupt the system is. That was disappointing to me for that reason, but even more so, and this is, maybe as a dad of a teenage girl, the victims.
Yeah.
We're talking hundreds, at least hundreds of young women who maybe aren't that young anymore, but they were at the time, who were, brutalized in a variety of ways that nobody would want to really, that would be very uncomfortable to hear about. But, this is a national healing that needs to happen, right? Because it touches into the global pedophile thing, which that's the Democrat Party, obviously, but beyond that, and there's just national healing that needs to happen around that, like an acknowledgement, acknowledging the victims, acknowledging their families, acknowledging lives that were destroyed, lives that were lost. All of this, that's just sort of a moral thing to do, even beyond a campaign promise. So I'm hoping, that and all the Democrat propaganda is nonsense. Oh, Trump was his best friend and he was involved, and no, he hated the guy, and Epstein hated him because he was an influential guy who didn't like what he was doing. So, there's a lot of reasons. And again, not everything has been disclosed. There's a lot more disclosure to do. There's a lot more transparency to happen. I hope for national healing and whatever healing can happen for the victims and their families. I kind of think that needs to happen. What
Right.
I'm feeling, Matt, in just the national pulse of most of the country is, and JD just came out and said exactly this within the last few days. And I'll just put this in very, simple, crude terms, is the nation needs a perp walk,
That's right.
right? With Comey and Clinton and Obama and all the bad actors who have been trying to destroy the country. There needs to be, and JD just came out and said he said out loud what all of us were thinking when Trump said, "Oh, that loser, are you still talking about him?"
Yeah.
And JD's like, no, there has to be actual accountability, actual prosecutions. He's an attorney, actual, legal action, accountability for people who actually broke the law. And the evidence is immense. I mean, it's irrefutable. Hillary, Obama, Comey, there's just so much absolute law breaking that happened that the national pulse I'm feeling is we got to have some perp walks. We have to have prosecutions. We have to have trials. We have to have disclosure, discovery. This is just like because he's really trying to destroy the swamp or the deep state or whatever you
This
want
is
to
where we
call it.
have to stop this, though. This is where I think the
This is
divide then
it.
begins to happen. This
Yeah.
has to be investigated. And let me just say this from the kind of old MAGA. That original MAGA is, I'm not even necessarily saying that I need to see every person who committed a crime in the Epstein files. I'm not suggesting that I need to see them all hung in front of me. I would like
Right.
that. I need
Sure.
to. I need the public though to say this guy has been a fraud for 25 years, and
Yeah.
here are his crimes. They won't be able to walk outside again. So when
Right.
when something goes out of character, like this was out of character for Trump,
Totally.
their
Totally.
administration, starting in February, thought they could pull one over and boldface lie to you and I and every other one of their supporters. And it was the first time when Pam Bondi came out on Fox News with that salacious lie that there was 10,000 hours of video to go through and all
Right.
these things, and we were strung along, and to have Trump, it
Yeah.
tells me they're not in control. They're not making these
Well,
decisions. That's
you're
what
not
bothers
alone
me.
in thinking that. Yeah, you're not
Okay.
alone in thinking that. So, I've been thinking about that same thing, Matt, and I'm glad you brought it up. Trump is very loyal. He's old
Yes.
school. Loyalty matters a lot. His loyalty to his, employees, his friends, et cetera, and now by extension the country is very deep. So he expects loyalty. And if you cross him, like you're dead to me kind
You're
of
out.
thing, like you
Yes.
get the horse head in the bed,
That's right.
you get taken out in the rowboat, right? So, figuratively speaking. And my only theory was, I have no idea if this is true, is that some people who were loyal to him and who have supported him may have been involved. I don't know. This is just a
Yeah.
pure speculation. Like he might be protecting his friend. I don't think he was involved. There's abundant evidence that he hated this guy, wanted to undermine him, threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, all of this type of stuff, blacklisted him from his properties. So there's no evidence that Trump was directly involved, but his loyalty means so much to him. My theory, pure speculation, is that he might be protecting people who have been loyal to him. I don't know. But regardless, he will do pretty significant harm to the movement that installed him, that
Yes.
elected him, if he doesn't make this right. Because, and I get it, this is the pedophile satanic cult, right? That's been running the world in large degree.
Yes.
This gets into that.
Oh,
This attacks that in a big way. It exposes that. And that's like, the place you don't go if you want to survive, right?
Right.
And because will just kill people who get, over the target, too close to the truth, whatever you want to say about it. So, thankfully, the only reason he's alive is that he's a fighter,
Yeah.
right? And he grew up where I grew up in New York City, in Queens, where I grew up. And, and that's the only reason he's been able to accomplish all this. The amount of assaults that have happened on him, reputationally, politically, physically, I don't know anybody else who could survive all that and still keep plowing forward at the age of 79, no less.
Fair.
So, I mean, he's definitely, there's divine intervention here. He's a man in time, in history, a historical figure who can withstand all these attacks.
Yes.
They distracted him for 4 years with this nonsense to pull his
Yes.
attention away. He's learned. He's learned how deep the corruption is. He's learned how savage the deep state is and its operatives in the Democrat Party. And he's gotten savvy because the thing that partly defined Trump 1.0, first administration, was because he's a fighter. By even his enemies would acknowledge that
Yes.
he's scrappy. You can't succeed at that level in New York real estate
Right.
without, being a street fighter, and he is, no
Totally.
doubt about it. And he'll get, but so he found it difficult to not respond to attacks. And he was responding to every little stupid thing they made up. And so, what was possible in the first administration was a success, but not what it could have been. And the blessing of the stolen 2020 election, which is nobody's opinion. I mean, the facts are
Sure.
irrefutable. It's just data. This is what happened in Georgia, in Michigan, and
Yes.
so forth. The blessing of that, Matt, was he had 4 years to think and plan, see who his real friends are, see who's loyal to him, and plan. So that, everything that's been happening from day one has been like very carefully laid out.
Yes.
Like they've been thinking about this. And he has, by any definition, like the greatest cabinet in U.S. history, maybe outside of the first one with George Washington and Jefferson and Adams, pretty iconic folks. But the current cabinet is unparalleled in modern history. And once they were installed and approved and all that, then I knew even if they killed him, God forbid, the team that's in place is so good that they'll continue the work. So I think
Here's
that
where I would say he's
yeah,
pride is going to come in right now. I have to give for Pam Bondi an
yeah,
F. She's out. For Kash
yeah,
Patel,
yeah,
he receives an F. He's out. Dan Bongino goes out there and humiliates himself
yeah.
in a closet
Contradicting
that says, I mean, sounds like a fool. Guy had a $5 million a
himself.
year podcast, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's a suicide. Okay, RFK to be determined. We've had a couple of flinches, but if this can play out, we're eons ahead in health than where we
yeah.
could have ever been under any administrative. He's not getting a grade yet. And then, so of course, then it brings us to then this. I can never let Epstein die, and I will repeat Epstein
No, nor
until
should
it's
you.
so we have to address that.
Yeah,
But
we
then
need accountability.
other accountability pieces, connected similarity. And, this is on the table for us right
Yeah,
now as we head into tomorrow is Friday. Trump, Putin, Alaska, peace showdown. But
yeah,
the rhetoric has changed there too, Doctor, because if
yeah,
you remember early on, it was not that long ago. Filthy little Zelensky was in the White House, insulting,
yeah,
being derogatory. He was basically kicked out. There's no deal. That
yeah.
was the feeling then. And it was not so much that Russia was the bad guy. It was this little punk is preventing us from getting a
Which
deal
is
done.
correct. Which is
Okay,
correct.
but why is it now Russia's fault and now Russia on the brink of
Yeah,
having? What are we doing,
mm,
Doc? This was so opposite.
yeah,
We've bombed Iran, we've
yep,
helped flatten Gaza, and now we're
yep,
going to basically what, punish the world if
yeah.
Ukraine loses Crimea. That one's not acceptable either, is
Yeah,
it?
that's been a big sticking point for me, Matt. He promised repeatedly in the campaign, and look, this is the world's best deal maker
Yes.
in history. Like no one does deals like this guy. He's trained his whole life to make deals, and he's better at it than anybody. And he's made historic deals. He's ended 7 wars,
Yeah.
which is astounding. And look, we have to, acknowledge the good, and there's a lot
Yes.
of good. And that's why I say, B plus, A minus, net net.
Right.
Maybe it's a B plus. But he said repeatedly on the campaign trail, I'll have this war ended in 24 hours. And he could have. And now we've gotten to, we're still giving them weapons, but Europe is paying for it, so it's okay. And all he had to do, and I knew what he was going to do, I mean, my opinion anyway. He calls Putin, he says, look, what do you need to make this go away? And Putin would have said what he's always said, guarantee in writing, Ukraine will never be in NATO.
Yep.
And give me a couple of provinces in eastern Ukraine who identify as
back
Russian.
off and we're good.
Yeah, give me, I'm not going to, I don't need the whole country. I need to protect the people who were massacred in 2014 and around that time, starting 2014, when we overthrew the government, one of the 89 times the CIA has overthrown a democratically elected government. And so we caused all of this. Obviously, the United States is the reason for the Ukraine war and the globalists who were in control. But Putin would have just said, I need a couple of provinces, Donbass, etc. And I need no Ukraine in NATO. I'll be right back.
Well, okay, so that's all fair and that's okay, but that actually is not what moves the needle.
Yes.
Not going to move the needle for the American heart. I want to also have when you're think about this too, as you're saying this. How much do you think the Ukraine mineral deal, this sort of joint coalition with the United States,
right,
how much is that? Are we now doing this as a business deal? Because as you continue there, we have a piece now on the NVIDIA chip sales from China. So the government's getting a piece of that. And then some of the breaking stuff today is the government considering a stake in Intel, another chip maker. We have this AI insanity moving at electric speed. We have crypto. We have now again, okay, so we did the thing, but I guess, are you willing, could you be convinced that if Russia doesn't leave, meaning they have to leave all of Ukraine, that would be offensive enough to get the United States into an altercation? Because they're going to go right after their money.
So
that's not going to justify it. So why is he speaking? So, well, here, let me do this. Actually, I want to show
I don't get it.
This is his, let me do a screen share because this is his.
There's something fishy going on there.
There's something going on, and I want to look at it.
Because the war could have been over January 21st, right? The day after inauguration, it would have been, okay, this is over. We're going to give Russia what they asked for, which is no NATO and a couple of provinces, and we're done. We're not going to give another penny, another dime, another weapon, no more
So, okay, so that to me is, it's relatively threatening type language on somebody who we've been told he's got a great relationship with and that we can, work this out. It just, to me, we ended up bombing Iran, and now how that resolves itself, who knows? Oh, you might hit a mic mute.
Yeah.
Are you okay? You're good. Okay, sorry. I thought I had you hit.
No problem.
So we've done that. Isn't the last thing in the world is the rhetoric from the United States and the Trump
you don't want that
intensified aggression overseas? We can't even arrest these filthy discuss. Before you go again, I want you to speak to this as a part of where they left. We don't have any criminal action for the 2020 election, the J6, the COVID stuff. We don't have any action on the Epstein list. I mean, it was very clear with the JFK files that it was not a lone gunman. We are demanding a perp walk in one of these categories, as said, but I guess, is it all talk? Some of these things are major things to take down, and I'm suggesting he doesn't have what it requires to take down the global order, which is what this leads us to. Isn't that fair? I mean, if you go after Epstein list, the global order as we know it unravels in front of our face, unless we've just been fooled. So it kind of goes, well, then if Trump now is all of a sudden against Russia, who is that pleasing?
Right. Well, that's only the neocon globalist narrative.
Yes.
Which has been the case for 60 years, is that Russia's the great enemy. Even after the fall of the Soviet Union, the neocons kind of continued this ridiculous nonsense that Russia is the great evil and Putin's insane and Putin is Hitler. Oh, this is all nonsense. This is just fake narratives. And, Putin's been very clear. He's like, we just want to be left alone. And, but our red line in the sand, which we will respond to, was, Ukraine and NATO.
Yes.
Because, this was the promise that was made in, was it Bush 1, that we agreed, I forgot who it was, Gorbachev perhaps, we will not move NATO 1 inch eastward of its current location. And Bobby Kennedy explained all of this. And he also explained your prior question is that we basically gave BlackRock Ukraine already.
Yes.
So that's another thing. But us adding 17 countries to NATO and moving 1,000 miles towards Russia after we promised we wouldn't do that, so Putin has been extremely tolerant of all this crap for decades. And he drew a line in the sand. He talked about it for 10 years. He's like, look, guys, we will not tolerate having NATO on our border. Of course, neither would we.
Right.
We wouldn't tolerate having China take over Mexico,
nope.
Right, or Canada, for example. We wouldn't tolerate having the CCP on our northern or southern border, nor should we. And Russia's doing exactly the same thing. So why Trump is, bowing to this bizarre neocon warmongering nonsense when he's ended so many other wars, and this one is, should have ended 7 months ago, I don't understand. And yes,
right.
All of us who support the populist movement, which is not really right or left, but really populist, right and left. If you look at Trump, Tulsi, Bobby, Elon, everybody was a Democrat, right? Everybody sort of came from the left at some point. And so I think of the MAGA movement as really a populist movement more than a right-wing movement. And it gets labeled that because the left has gone full commie, like they're left of Stalin at this point.
Yes.
They're left of Mao, right? They're full communist at this point. They're not even hiding it anymore.
No.
We have Mondami and the guy in Minnesota, all this sort of thing. They've gone the most extreme that you can imagine. So it looks like MAGA is this far right movement, which it's not.
No.
And so I don't understand what is going on, but it's one of the biggest disappointments so far is like, why is this war still going on? Why are we still arming Ukraine, even though Europe is paying for it, supposedly? Like, what the heck is going on?
Yes.
Trump, made the mineral deal. That's what he likes to do. I'll broker a deal, but it's got to benefit the United States. Fair enough. Saves lives, wars end. So I don't know what's going on. The Epstein thing, the Ukraine thing, I just don't really get it.
So we have Epstein, we have Ukraine, we have, gosh, big forks in the road if we choose wrong on these.
Yes.
If they come back out and say, because Trump has never repented for Operation Warp Speed. I mean, you will still hear him slip out about what a great success it was and all these things.
Yeah, but that's him.
But here's where, though, now is accountability, because first we know so much more now about the COVID shot, for example. He should be on his knees and he should be prosecuting those that lied to him. It's only two choices. Either you knew this was dangerous or you were lied to. If you were lied to, go get him. Then go get him. Okay, this is ridiculous that Dr. Fauci still has this fantastic life and Michelle Walensky. It's enough playing around, but he's a lame duck president in the sense of this is it. He doesn't know maybe about impeachment in 26, but maybe he feels like he's got that security because if they lose the House, you can make up. Donald Trump jaywalked last week, articles of impeachment. That's coming day one, right? And so he can't mess around because if you lose a third of MAGA, parties over for him. And there's no JD Vance, and there's now we're back to prison and all this stuff
for the whole world. Yeah,
it's game over. Now, what he's doing in DC to speak to now this is some of the brilliance of Trump, because I'm going to be super critical, and then I'm going to give praise exactly where it is.
Well, there's a lot of praise that's deserved.
Yeah, and go right to. I always think it's funny when we're in Ukraine or we're in Israel or in the Middle East, anywhere. and we've got these violent inner cities. I always find that hilarious that we're peacemakers, and then yet you can't walk in Washington, D.C. past 8 p.m. Are you out of your mind? Who are you giving advice to? Says the guy who's been divorced 3 times on how you're supposed to be a good husband, right? I mean, we're not listening, but yet we continue to do this. So this action in D.C., and Trump is right on the money, where he says this is a filthy capital and it reflects us as a filthy country, stops now, and we have the legal authority to do so. Before, but what he has done, and I know you heard the Scott Jennings, he kind of popularized that 80-20, right?
Great. He nailed that.
And he nailed it. It's become very cultural. It's been very phrase. You can use it so much. It's wonderful. But Trump, through his brilliance, has put them in another one of these. They have to defend.
You're in a bind.
Let's hear this King Democrat just real quick, because
make sure you're sharing sound, Matt. I didn't hear the previous clip with Trump.
So okay, got it. Yeah, let me make sure you do. Gosh, good question. There, I might have
tooth and nail, and right.
Okay, so here's Chuck Schumer.
Have you heard?
Have you heard do you think the DC takeover?
Going to because he can't revoke complete home rule authority for DC without actually going to Congress first. He can't even extend this past 30 days without going to you all first. Have you heard that that's what he plans on doing? And if he went to Congress and said, you know what, there's this crime emergency, we need the National Guard out there longer, we need to take over Washington, D.C., would you grant it?
No fucking way.
Jeez.
We'll fight him tooth and nail.
What a sweetheart.
And right
now, all class.
30 days.
I mean, just class.
26 or 27.
All class.
Whatever.
Yep.
But you can see the move. The play is we're going to fight Trump on this one too. Let me get this out of here. We're going to fight Trump on this one. Oh my God, let me get that guy out of there. So they're going to pick the same issue where they're pro-criminal, and they're anti, the poor mom just trying to get groceries into the house, couldn't make it. So again, if Trump was serious, the people, it goes back to the Epstein list, goes back to the swamp. There are political, powerful people that want to make sure America is riddled with crime, with all sorts of lawlessness and chaos. They are in powerful positions or with the resources to make those things happen. Okay. When you go after the Epstein files and you get the names, this is, Les Wexner, everybody has to go find out who exactly Les Wexner is, who is if you find out that the Victoria's Secret CEO, mega billionaire, had also given away power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein for 16 years and all, I mean, that is just a documented, not for debate stuff. How do you think that the people who are then participating in the filth that Jeffrey Epstein was, how would they have an America first, pro-America, MAGA constitutional value set? They simply wouldn't. So I'm of this opinion. You don't like crime? Release the files. You don't like the LGBTQ everywhere? Release the files. You don't like the corruption and all the money and all the exchange and all the favors? Release the files. So, this is one way to go around it. You put the guard in there, you federalize DC, you're going to get incredible pushback. Do you think some of these big flashy things, the Obama arrest, we're going to go after Hillary, we're taking over DC, are those sincere, or are those just to keep us away from the Epstein, the scent of the Epstein trail? Are these sincere? Like, we're going to get arrested. Major people are going to jail because we caught your fraud, or is this all fluff and talk?
Yeah, it's a good question, Matt. I could see it both ways. Like, he let Elon sort of nibble around the edges of the government and cut some waste, but he didn't let him take a sledgehammer to it, right? With Doge, for example. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out, but I will say there needs to be a national healing, a national, even if there's grieving and consequences and whatever else, we just need this because people are getting it now that this is not, this is not okay. And honestly, to his credit, he did respond to his close associates, people in the media, in the non-traditional media like yourself, and kind of walked back that forget about Epstein comment, and at least agreed to disclose and release the court documents. of the case against
right
him.
there, though, why that instinct to lie and hide and try it? Why
Well,
try that? I mean,
I
it's not
don't know.
genuine. I mean, that's going to be where I just get
as
stuck.
it's as perplexing as why is the Ukraine war, which we started, still going on?
Right.
Like that makes no sense at all. And it's contrary to what he said previously.
No.
And I think so there's something going on that, you and I don't know about.
Sure.
That's causing him to do some dumb things that are eroding the base.
Yes.
But you're right. His brilliance is he's forcing the Democrats to eat each other over the DC thing.
Right.
Because a lot of those people live in DC and they can't go out at night. They can't send their daughters on a date, somewhere or whatever, because they're going to get killed or worse. And so, he forced them into a corner where they're completely insane and defending crime just because they hate him, right?
Yep.
And or they're like, you know what, this place is a crap hole, and we got to clean this up. This isn't good for anybody, and it's not good for our families. And he got this one right. But the TDS is so deep, and now the rhetoric has really amplified. Now they're like, we need to get meaner. We have to get more aggressive. Like these are already folks who are ultra violent, ultra aggressive. Now you have Cory Booker screaming for 25 hours, and others, or when I was Jeffries, you have Booker in his office holding a baseball bat. Like they're openly calling for violence because of the depth of the TDS. It doesn't even matter what he's doing, however honorable or helpful or useful or stuff that people are behind, they're doubling down on TDS violence.
TDS reminds me of a very degenerative disease. It gets worse as you get longer in the disease. Because it's reached when you're defending illegal criminal aliens. You're defending those. You're defending. They're defending the Cincinnati the Cincinnati monsters that are kicking. They're defending that. I mean, so they're completely disconnected. I don't believe they have that many fans. It's all a facade.
No,
who the
it's
heck
about
is 25%? Okay, and that's how we know we have fake elections, because 25% are not generating these kind of 81 millions.
That's right. That's right. Well, that just came out, Matt, that they polled Democrats as to who they would vote for in 2028, and 25% of them voted for no name. In other words, there wasn't even a person. They're just voting for whoever isn't MAGA, right? So, I mean, that tells you that there's your number. And that's about the same stat of people to the very last day of the Biden regime, and whoever was in control of the Biden regime, obviously it wasn't him. To the very last day, the polling showed 29%. Country's going in the right direction. He's doing a great job. He's awesome. This is a historically awesome presidency. That was all the way up until the last day when he gave George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom and Hillary Clinton. So that tells you that gives you an approximation of the completely disconnected from reality. Let's have men and women sports kind of, children can change their gender every other day, kind of crowd. This extreme, cultural Marxist, radical leftist, left of Lenin, crowd, who, are so they're willing to die on a 10% hill. In other words, issues that 10% of the population agrees with them about, they're doubling down on. And so, but that's about it. So that's the percentage roughly of the country, 25, 30%, who are completely insane, completely disconnected from reality, have ceased any form of thought, and are just feeling, it's all feelings and yelling and violence.
I think that's a pretty good summation.
Yeah. They feel and yell. There's no dialogue or discussion or thought.
And they'll fight positive healthcare changes as well. That's what I want to put us on our last little segment here.
Yeah, sure.
The healthcare impact of the Trump administration has been huge. Unprecedented. It's been big, large. It's a big overhaul when you're talking about how deep the Department of Agriculture and food is in just our culture. medicines, the whole bit. We've so many folks have come to a different understanding of healthcare and medicines and how to protect their children. I only see that growing and being, poured into. I don't know. Give us your thoughts kind of on this new exciting healthcare path we're on.
Yeah, MAGA has been racking up some major wins, and from getting chemicals out of food from major food producers to cleaning up school programs to getting junk food, soda and candy off of food stamps, even where we are in Camirado, after Bobby spoke to the Governors Association, 6 more states asked for permission to ban junk food from food stamps. Like, you can't use food stamps, government assistance, SNAP program, to buy junk food. And he made a compelling case, and it worked. So there's been so many wins: getting mercury out of vaccines, discontinuing funding on 22 mRNA drug development projects. There's a bunch of others, but that was a huge win. So, I definitely would give Bobby, an A or A minus for sure. Why the COVID shots are still available, I'm not really sure, given the abundance of evidence. Because he said, repeatedly on the campaign trail, if you call me names, I don't care. You're not going to change my mind. But if you show me facts, evidence, and data, I'll change my mind. And he did that actually on late-term abortion, for example. Which, where he said, it's not an issue, that never happens. And then somebody said, well, actually, it's 1% of all abortions happen in the 3rd trimester. He didn't know that. And he said, no, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. And he changed his view. He's like, no late-term abortions.
Fair.
Because his initial stance was the government should just stay out of that, not get involved with that. That's a personal decision. And it doesn't happen anyway. And he even said on an interview, no woman would do that in their 8th month or 7th month or 9th. Nobody would do that. Nobody does it. And then they showed him the actual stats. It's 1%, about 60,000 a year. And he's like, I didn't know that. And so, so he is, he's influenceable if you show him facts, data, and evidence, except on the COVID shots. But I think what's happening now, he's gotten off the kids, gotten off the pregnant women in terms of mandates or recommendations. It might just be incremental. Like, he's moving as quickly as he can, given the swamp. And, I'm certainly okay cutting him some slack to just keep moving in the right direction. Of course, all of us who support Bobby want him to do more, faster, be more aggressive, hit it harder, fine. But I think he's making enormous progress in a very corrupt system.
I'd say it like this: the COVID shot at a minimum. He knows as well as you and I know, this thing was never fit for human consumption.
Oh yeah,
this will be his Epstein moment. He absolutely has to address this thing. It has to come off, because if you leave this thing that injures at a rate some 100x the next closest vaccine, you got a serious problem. I want to get your thoughts on his. He also kind of has this bigger vision of a more universal, safe start over vaccines, and kind of replacing what we've done, and kind of, I guess I'm confused. Do you feel like as a culture, as a race, as a society, as a people, do we need vaccines to survive? I mean, I guess, isn't it a chance that we could say, you know what, we're actually going, we're not going to reinvest billions into safe vaccines. Isn't it a great chance to pivot and look at other ways to prevent disease, treat disease, and then really support the area of the body's natural abilities? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, there's 2 ideas I've had about that, Matt. One was he needed to get confirmed. Yeah. Right. And so him sort of, fudging it a little bit and saying I'm pro-vaccine, where he really didn't need to say that in the hearings.
Right.
He could have just said
bad tape. It turned out to be bad tape to have. But
it was a little weird, but I get it. He needed to get confirmed to get anything done. I get it. He could have simply said what he did say on the campaign trail, which is, I just want safe vaccines and good science, good safety science and safe vaccines. He could have stuck with that, but he said, I'm pro-vaccine, I'm pro-vaccine, I'm pro-vaccine. So, all right, whatever. I mean, he got confirmed. But so the answer is no. No vaccine has ever ended any epidemic at any time in human history. So, and the vaccine science, so-called, I mean, using that generously, calling it science, is not based in reality or physiology. You can't make a safe vaccine. It's impossible. There is no such thing as a safe vaccine. Why? Because the vaccines are either, the vaccines typically involve an adjuvant like aluminum hydroxide, which is an extraordinarily potent neurotoxin that causes, in some people, autoimmune disease. It's why the US is the autoimmune capital of the world, is that we vaccinate more than any other country. So him saying we need to wipe the slate clean, start over again, and figure out how to make safe vaccines, I think he knows better, since he's published so many books on it, that that's impossible.
Right.
Any more than you can make a safe mRNA vaccine. They're all going to be catastrophic, because you're forcing the body to make a foreign protein to which the body will attack. And the body will attack itself. Basic immunology, and he knows this because he's written books on it, that as soon as a cell, a healthy body cell, produces a foreign protein, the immune system will always attack that cell because it's the source of what appears to be an infection, a protein that doesn't belong in the body. This happens every day. If you have a cold or a flu or whatever, the cells that are producing these viral particles are destroyed because those are foreign proteins. So you can't make a safe mRNA vaccine for that reason. It's a guaranteed autoimmune response. And you can't make a safe traditional vaccine. And mRNA injections aren't vaccines anyway. They're gene manipulation agents. And so you can't make a traditional vaccine safe because of the adjuvants, without which they don't work. That tiny bit of antigen will not be enough to generate a sufficient durable immune response unless you force the immune system to be in a state of chronic high stimulation, which breaks down immunological tolerance and makes autoimmune disease very likely. And there's even a textbook, a medical textbook called Vaccines and Autoimmunity, written by possibly the top autoimmune researcher in the world, Yehuda Schoenfeld in Israel. It's not a theory. He's like, vaccines cause autoimmune disease, period. And he wrote a textbook just describing how that happens, or edited a textbook. So, Bobby, I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but he's done so much good on the food side. Now he's getting a little more aggressive on the vaccine side. The two things that have been killing more people than anything, death and injury, is vaccines and food. That certainly, okey doke to just give him time. Yes. 6, 7 months in, 8 months in, he's done so much good to destroy the pharmaceutical cartel, the medical mafia, that, he's a super smart guy. And, I'm just willing to give him some time. What he was saying about wearables was a little weird because he's spoken about that repeatedly. We want every American with a wearable. Like, what was that about?
Right.
Like, he knows that's a bad idea. So that was a little weird. And the COVID shots are still on the market. What's up with that? So I get that. There's things I'm not thrilled about.
Yes.
But I'm willing to take a longer view. He's got 3.5 years roughly to go. And what he's accomplished so far has been pretty impressive. I'm willing to cut him slack. And sort of like Trump, same idea as well. He's done so much good. I'm willing to give him some time. But, he's definitely has to come to moral resolution about, ending the Ukraine war and Epstein.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see these sort of exposed in Trump and in RFK, this desire to have this consolidated data, big AI then interpretation. We know that's a part of the Palantir. We like this sort of national ID. There is definitely a move right now. The big beautiful bill supposedly had or does have a federal oversight on AI in the 50 states and for the next 10 years. And so there is this, it just doesn't seem necessary. The other thing too is this sort of centralized medical record system. And we work in medicine, and they're saying somehow that's better for medicine to have all that. We never run into that as far as being a problem, access to prior records. And so there's this little slip coming in. And if you go back to 9/11, we had the Patriot Act, and that's how we got things like the FISA courts and all that stuff. So we are paying attention. They are still to be held to account because
for sure
we're getting closer. We're doing a lot of good things around the edges.
A lot of good things.
But you have to penetrate.
He's gone hard on the trans cults, the DEI, the cultural Marxism. He's gone hard on that. And so it's had to go underground. And,
Yes.
public opinion is thoroughly with him, except for that 25% of the population that's completely insane. But, so anyway, he's gone very, very hard on some things, and he's gone inexplicably AWOL on other things. I get that. But still, there's been so much good. He literally saved the world from communism.
Yes.
Global communism.
And that's what it is. And so you could say a similar thing in 2016 when we were going to get Hillary Clinton after an atrocious 8 years. So he put another pause in. Now, here's the problem is, yes, we paused the LGBTQ in the school. We paused the Black Lives Matter. We paused the DEI. Yeah. If his movement is not with some permanency, some longevity to where these rats cannot get back in, but that's where we need the arrest. So let me get your thoughts before we go, because I want to check these again by the end of the year if we've had any movement on the COVID vaccine, the COVID rollout, the COVID fraud in general. Will we see any charges filed against anyone that might have played a hand in them this year? I know it's August. Will we see any? I
believe
charges? So. Okay, so COVID will say yes. Okay, very good. The 2020 election fraud, there is a plethora. And I will respect until the day I die Donald Trump. He also is never going to get off the fact that the 2020 election was stolen. Do you
should he?
No, and never should he. Do you believe there will be action or charges brought against any of the players regarding the 2020 fraud election?
Yes, because of what he just said recently, like there has to be accountability.
Okay, yes. Okay, this is
he was asked that specifically.
Okay, Epstein list. Will we see anyone, even a no-namer? He was a banker, a wealthy banker, but he was on video, and we're going to roll him out as a show, as a sacrifice. Will we get any charges, Epstein files? I'm
less confident about that.
I would be too. Okay. And then I think here's where you could say, I know this is a great question, actually. Would the average MAGA guy, old school MAGA like myself, old school MAGA like yourself, saying we demand that to be done, would the average MAGA, would they trade sort of the, let's just put Epstein behind the corner and let's not look at that right now, but you got to give us Hillary, or you got to give us Obama, you got to give us Clapper, you got to give us Comey, you got to give us, by doing this with Epstein, they've basically set the stages. You got to give us somebody from Russiagate. You got to give us one.
Yes. I believe if you put Epstein aside, I think there will be some legal accountability for somebody else. And high profile. I believe there will be some action there. And a lot of that is based on JD, like 2 days ago or whatever it was.
And he wants to preserve his future. He has a very serious thing too. If he plays the Trump card, the Pam Bondi card, the deceitful card, see it. He has to be truthful. And so if he believes that, that's a good inside pressure to say, hey, just so you know, the people, the guys my age, they're saying, give us the list.
People are not going to put up with, people are not going to put up with more obfuscation.
Yes. Doctor, this is fantastic. What we thought, now, when we last joined last October, it was, I thought, gosh, if Trump wins, are you ever going to need a show? And oh my goodness, are you going to continue? There's more chaos now, in my opinion, because we've spread ourselves so far, so quickly in so many areas. It's a fantastic time to be alive. It's a grateful time to be a Christian, because what I know now, even as high as regard as we held Trump, he was the most patriotic, greatest politician we'd ever seen. He's falling short because why? He's got the flesh of man like we all do. And there's only one that walks through all this turmoil unfazed, and that's the Christ Jesus, our Lord. And so it's just a good place to know that's where it starts. And then we're going to pray for our leaders. I'm praying for wisdom to come into President Trump.
And
encouragement and clarity on what's important for America today. Let's do that. And let's just serve our fellow man. I want to have you back soon. I want to keep regular on the topics. Tell everybody how they can connect if they want to find more about Gaeta Institute and the things going on there. Let them know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, we have a clinic and a school for natural health, nature first, drugs last. So the Gaeta Clinic and school are at michaelgaeta.com. So Michael, Gaeta.com. And we have a health clinic where I work with people mostly remotely through phone and video, or here in the Boulder office with Chinese and functional medicine. And then we have a school with 60 courses and 25 faculty teaching a range of natural health topics. So if you'd like a health consult, if you have a health issue, or if you'd like to learn more about how to take care of yourself, your family, your patients, we do a lot of health professional trainings in natural functional medicine. Just go to michaelgaeta.com. And yeah, love to help anybody who's interested in our philosophy of nature first, drugs last.
That's fantastic. And it feels good to be on the right side of people's health, because there's only going to be more and more people flooding and seeking out that type of healthcare. Gaeta
Yes.
Institute, Boulder, Colorado, virtual, in person, the whole bit.
Oh,
MichaelGaeta.com.
and
Yes, sir.
Last update, I'm writing a book on a Chinese herb.
Oh, wow.
And I finished I finished the introduction, the first 2 chapters. I'd love to give that to your listeners.
Absolutely.
I'm working on chapter 3, but I'm happy to give them what I've written so far.
Okay.
And I'll send you a link that you can put in the show notes.
We'll get in the show notes. Contact the show. We'd love to get a piece of that, sir. We'll talk and get you again soon. And folks, do this until next time. Serve God, help others, stay good. Goodbye. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.